The Kitten Patrol Admin Ask Me Anything Part 2. So first of all, because I forgot I was going to do this before, because this is actually a question I get a bunch. My name is Sharon, so it's pronounced Char-own, hence the E. The E actually came in 7th grade, because I was tired of every single substitute and teacher ever calling me Sharon. And then one of the first teachers to make the mistake was an Israeli teacher calling me Sharon because she didn't think an American girl would have a Jewish name. The name is actually from Hebrew, from Sharon. Ramat Sharon, the area of Sharon, in Tel Aviv. Some other areas. In fact, when I visited last, I stayed in Hod HaSharon. My name was everywhere. But yeah, so my name's a place. Yay. But that's where the name comes from. That's how it's pronounced. Since I do have one of those names that gets mispronounced a lot, like Mara. Other admin that I hope most of you have watched her AMA. If you haven't watched Mara's AMA, go find it, watch it. It's fantastic, as is pretty much everything she posts. In fact, while I'm at it, go watch all of the AMAs when they come out. All of us are really interesting. I've been really enjoying watching I think I've only seen Mara's so far. I'm going to get off and watch Kittie's. So join me in that. Okay. So questions. Because I said that I was going to go through the next few and that these would take a while. So, when did I discover that I was polyamorous? So first thing is a little bit about polyamory. What this means is that you have the ability to be romantically involved with more than one person. The way I define it is poly has to do with emotions. Being open has to do with more the physical side of things. So it's not just about sleeping around with a lot of people. It's about actual full emotional relationships. And one thing I learned when I was in relationships at first is that I didn't stop looking at other people just because I was in a relationship with someone. And I always felt terribly guilty about this fact. Because as far as I knew that other people didn't. Some of the people I was with, very clearly didn't. Which made me a little sad, because sometimes if I was dating someone, I wanted to go, oh, hey, that girl's cute. On the other side, I do identify as pansexual. So, but, baby girl, what are you doing? My kitty's doing something over there. Oh, sweetie. Right. So just because I'm probably going to refer to dating different genders, that's helpful. So I always felt really guilty for looking at other people and didn't really know what to do about this. And then in college, I discovered that poly was a thing. And in fact, the Boston area, and especially the Cambridge, Somerville area, has a really, really large poly community. And a lot of the friends I made in college who were not actually college students were poly, which is how I learned it was a thing. And I started to think about it, and I realized that sounded right. And later I did get to have, be dating more than one person at once. It worked. This requires a lot of things, like you have to be okay with hearing about other people. You have to be okay with talking. You need huge amounts of communication. Everyone should know about everyone else, or to at least know that other people exist, even if they don't have all the details. Communication is super, super important. So yes, they all knew about each other. A couple of them were long distance. Things changed around a lot in that time because I graduated college and moved during that time. But in any case, but yeah, I realized in college, and I want to say either late junior or early senior year, was when I really figured it out and figured out that's what I was. what kind of college classes do I want to teach once I became a professor? And this goes along with, can I give a play-by-play of what I did in college and what I'm doing now? So I'm going to start with college. In college, I started as a math major. I plan to be a math honors, which is lots and lots of math classes where you have to do extra well in them, and take some languages on the side. My sophomore, and a whole bunch of people said, wait, you're planning on taking a whole bunch of languages? Try linguistics! Which now makes me twitch, because linguistics is not about learning languages, it's studying how languages work. Worst question to ask a linguist is, you're a linguist? What languages do you speak? No. But people said I should try linguistics, and I fell head over heels in love with it. Which is good, because at the same time I was falling in love with linguistics, I was falling out of love with math. I learned that past calculus. I was great through calculus. Through calculus, I competed with the smartest guy. The guy who later surpassed me by leaps and bounds. But in calculus, I was neck and neck with him. We were always competing for the best grade by just a couple points and switching back and forth who got it. But after I got out of calculus, and especially multivariable calculus, I couldn't actually figure it out myself anymore. I could follow what someone else had done, and I could replicate it in a similar problem, but I couldn't actually figure it out myself, which was very, very problematic. And I started to really get frustrated and fall in love, or out of love with math, and fall absolutely in love with linguistics. And then, towards the end of my college, as I was pursuing a linguistics major, at that point I was still planning a math major as well. Later on, this ended up becoming a math minor, when I realized I tried to go back to math after doing a semester of full linguistics, and just couldn't even remember what things meant. And it just didn't feel worth it anymore to try to continue and get the major. At that point, I knew I didn't want to continue in math. I knew I wanted to continue in linguistics. And then towards the end, I discovered linguistic anthropology. Now, anthropology is the study of humans and culture. Linguistic anthropology is studying how identity and language, or cultures and language, go together. And I learned that I loved it. I wasn't very good at it at first. In fact, I got some of my lower grades when I first started linguistic anthropology, but I was so in love with it. And now, or basically, I decided I wanted to go into linguistic anthropology, and I had a professor tell me, this is a really good, important lesson to take from this. I had a professor tell me that I had a linguistics background, I had a formal linguistics background, and I wasn't going to be able to get into a linguistic anthropology program. That I should try something called sociolinguistics, which is fairly similar, but not quite the same, and the complexities of those differences are really complicated. I'm not going to even try to explain it, because I don't fully understand it, to be quite honest. But I applied to the college that I'm in now for grad school, because they had a they were my local one. I discovered that linguistics was within anthropology, so if I got into linguistics, I'd pretty much be automatically in anthropology. And it's a 4-field approach, which meant you have to learn a bit, especially as a PhD student, about all 4 fields of anthropology, being cultural, linguistics, biological, or physical, and archaeology. Which I guess you could also, in some ways, call historical, but not exactly. And I love this idea, partly because I realized during, the end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year, that why wasn't I in anthropology all along? Seriously. I've always been fascinated with cultures, with religions, from an academic viewpoint, as well as from, like I said, a religious Jew. Absolutely interested in mythology and folklore and comparative religions and comparative mythology. Basically, I should have been an anthropologist all along. I just didn't discover it till later on. So this meant that I actually had to take other anthropology classes, and I would get to make up for a bunch of what I had missed in college. So I applied, and I actually didn't just get in, I got in with an assistantship. So I got to teach, or be a teaching assistant, and then they paid my tuition, and I got a stipend. It was great. What I'm doing now, what this leads to, is linguistic anthropology. There's a decently long story that I won't go into as to how I got to where I am now, but basically I got really interested in identity and gender identity, partly because of my LARPing, as I discussed last video. And I have a lot of friends who are transgender or not binary genders. So there's a story to how I got to where I am now, but what I'm studying is how we present and create our gender identities through our language. I could go on for hours about this, to be quite honest, but basically what I'm doing is I'm working with people who are not cisgender, that is, in some way your gender identity does not match the way you were identified at birth. Either you only feel that way some of the time, you full transgender, that's a terrible way to put it, gender queer, gender fluid, they're gender, agent, you get the picture. But this is a group of people for whom, as a whole, you really have to think about your presentation. Most of us who are cis, we're socialized at such a young age, we don't really realize what we're doing, and we don't really realize there's a right, but we will catch when someone's doing something that's wrong. And so it's really important to match the identity you're presenting as, the one that you choose, whether it's you have to, where you are, hide your actual identity and pretend to be what you're not, or whether you're fully out presenting who you are, but you have to make sure that that matches, because it can be, unfortunately, actively dangerous if things don't match. Or if you're lucky and you're in one of the areas where it's not so dangerous, then you get to give thought to, well, how do you want to present? How do you want to make sure that you're actually read as who you are? Because misgendering is not, or being misgendered is not fun at all. So how do you try to get across the fact that you're, say, not a binary gender? Which is actually really fascinating. Again, I could go into this for hours, and I'm only starting my studies in a lot of ways. Year 6 of grad school, partway through my first year of field work, I could go on forever. But that's what I'm studying, that's what I'm getting my PhD in, and I want to teach that. I want to write my dissertation on it, hopefully get some books and articles from it, and I want to teach linguistics, but the cultural and especially gender linguistics. Especially because no one is studying non-binary genders. I swear, it's really hard to find people who are studying that at all. Almost no one's studying transgender and linguistics. No one's studying non-binary linguistics. And again, I'm more using that as a method to study gender linguistics as a whole. But this also means that I'm pretty knowledgeable about gender and sexuality, because they do go hand in hand. Okay. And that was only a few questions, but I think that will take up this AMA. And I'll continue in the next one. And most of the next questions will go a lot faster. Okay, so bye all. Hope you enjoy.